cloudy, and you can still see it, but I love when it's clear and it just looks like it's going all the way up to the sky.
Right, that's the
Beautiful.
site.
And we found a good ice cream place, which is even,
That's what it's all about, right? Now, do they have brownies so you can put the ice cream on top of the brownies?
I could have, but it was I don't know, they talked to us for like 5 minutes about this special recipe that the guy brought from, it's like a ice cream gelato. I thought it was very, very good.
Where is it, in Keyport?
Yeah, yeah.
Long way to go just for ice cream.
Well, Jeff, I'm holding you to it when this is all over.
All right.
We'll go to Keyport.
Never too far to travel for ice cream. Come on.
And Karen's here.
All right. All right.
Ice cream.
I'll come in from the city for it.
Sounds like a plan.
To Bob Hoffman any day of the week.
Oh, Hoffman's is great. They
Yeah.
opened up in Keyport now?
No, this was just a different place in Keyport. I was just responding to Karen saying that it's never too far to drive for ice cream, for good ice cream.
Absolutely not.
Well, when we can get back together again, are we going to have some kind of ONIC?
That'd be nice. Oh, that'd be great, but it doesn't, nicer in person. Is there any talk about when, or just not yet? It's too early.
No.
It's too early. There's still thoughts about the possibility of a second wave. I don't know when we'll get back in. At this point, it's going to be next year, certainly.
Well, this morning's news wasn't so great either. New York Sports is planning to file for bankruptcy
Oh, wow.
Ah.
because they didn't get money that they were sending out to other, small organizations. I don't know why, but this is just the first that I heard of it.
Oh, they didn't get, because we got some of that money.
The Temple did.
Yes.
Well, thank God.
What do you mean New York sports?
Pardon?
You said New York sports?
Yeah,
Jim?
the gym.
Jim,
New
yeah.
York Sports Club.
Okay.
Club. I'm sorry, New York Sports
Oh,
Club.
that's what I thought.
Oh,
They're planning to because they had filed for some money that was given to a lot of smaller businesses, not these, Amazons and what have you, and they were turned down. That doesn't mean that they are actually going to do it, but if they can't get an influx of money, they can't continue, and they've got rents that they have to pay, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't see any
you
gym.
just joined.
I won't go to a gym. I mean, foreseeable future.
It's not a question of that, Joellen. It's a question that they have expenses and overhead that they have to pay. Forget salaries. There's rent, insurance, all the.
This is not going to be the last of that.
Equipment rentals.
I don't think it's begun to even hit how many places are going to not come back.
Exactly.
Especially like retail. A lot of the retail places already started.
Restaurants,
Restaurants. Just
What did they
retail
do?
and restaurants.
December or November. We went down last night to the shore. We were freezing. I would not do that. That's it. We're done with that.
Yes, outside.
Yeah.
We were outside and it was freezing. So,
They didn't have one of those heaters.
no,
Mm.
really cold. I was like really uncomfortable. We ate quick and we left.
Well,
So,
yeah, there was another restaurant that's always busy in this morning's paper, and he said because they only are allowed to have this is in the city, 7 tables. That's their max or their limit, and they can't even pay salaries. Staff, and they don't have a big staff. If you have only 7 tables outside, you don't need a lot of staff. This is really impacting tremendously on even small, minute places. Sad, very sad.
Think about it. In New York, they have so many of those little tiny restaurants that are what they used to call railroad apartments, long and narrow, and they can have but 7 is a lot because if it's a narrow building, they
Then
have to
if
space
it's a
them.
narrow build, Karen,
Right.
if it's a narrow building like that, they won't be able to fit 7 tables
Exactly.
outdoors.
Exactly. So how can they afford
I
to
don't know.
run their establishments?
It's really sad. And I mean,
it's
I
devastating.
I walk the city a lot. I mean, I handicapped now, but I was shocked to see how many retail stores were closed starting, and I'm saying goodbye. They said goodbye because up until March, they weren't doing well either because people didn't know where they were going to be. It's
I'm
a
re-
very,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
very sad. There's an old expression, live beneath your means.
I'm really glad it's Shabbat. I need
Yes.
some
I need a welcome.
calmness and peace.
Well, good. On that note, I think we'll start
Thank you.
a group of
Perfect
people.
segue.
So I found a prayer that we don't normally do. It's on.
Brian, would you please mute everybody?
Or
It starts on page 127.
Yikes. Hold on. Where'd you guys go? You guys need to unmute. Sorry.
There are days when we seek for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. These are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, and day of peace. Now we'll turn to page 186 for Moda Ani. Moda Ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayom, shechezarta b'nishmati b'chemla, b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Moda ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayom, shechezarta b'nishmati b'chemla, b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Now we'll turn to page 193. And at the top of the page,
I'll have people read.
who could read for us? How about Lois and Larry? Could you read page 193 at the top?
One moment.
Okay. 93.
Oh, Brian moved.
Okay.
May
I gotta get to
193. May the one whose spirit is with us in every righteous deed
be
be with all who work for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, and who give bread to the hungry, who clothe the naked, and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure, and may the seed they sow bring abundant harvest.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now I thought we'd do Elohai Neshama. It's on page 196. And normally what we do is the first line in Hebrew, the Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi, twice, and then we'll read the English at the bottom. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, asher b'yado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. At the top of 201, Suzanne, could you read that for us as I awaken?
As I awaken, let this be my thought. May my day be filled with acts of loving kindness. Let me be drawn to learning and discernment. And may my actions be shaped by my mitzvot. Keep me from iniquity, disgrace, and sin. May I not be overwhelmed by temptation or despair. Distance me from evil people and false friends. Let me cultivate a life of goodness. May my hands reach out in kindness, and I will serve God through acts of righteousness. Today and every day, may I merit your mercy by living my life with compassion and love. Holy One of blessing, draw me to your words. Teach me the art of sacred living. Baruch atah Adonai, hamlamed chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael.
Thank you. And now we'll join together on page 204 and just do the blessing at the top of the page. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. Page 206 at the bottom of the page. Brian, could you do that for us? Brian Feinberg.
Sure. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruits of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
Thank you. I wanted to just read the English at the bottom of page 208. Exalted and hallowed be God's great name, and in the world which God created according to plan. May God's majesty be revealed in the days of our lifetime and the life of all Israel, speedily, imminently, to which we say Amen.
Amen.
Blessed be God's great name to all eternity. Blessed, praised, honored, exalted, extolled, glorified, adored, and lauded be the name of the Holy Blessed One. Beyond all earthly words and songs of blessing, praise, and comfort, to which we say
Amen.
In the middle of page 211, Sharon and Jeff, could you read that for us? It starts with prayer gives us.
Prayer gives us the guidance we need. It opens the mind to the illumination of God. The prophets made their whole life an act of prayer, so they received the inspiration of God. Our humbler minds, standing much below the heights at which they stood, receiving for the most part only a reflected illumination, may now and then, by climbing a little higher, catch a glimpse of the direct light. Through prayer, we can receive the guidance of God to strengthen our hold on truth, goodness, righteousness, and purity, which are the laws for humanity emanating from the nature of God.
Thank you. Let's turn to 219 at the bottom of the page. Jerry, could you do that for us?
Let the soul of everything alive bless your name, Adonai our God, and the spirit of all flesh glorify and exalt your name forever, O sovereign. Transcending space and time, you alone are God. We have no sovereign besides you, God of the first and the last, God of all creatures, Master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute. And God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to Baruch on page 226.
Baruch et Adonai Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Leolam Va'ed.
Page 229 at the bottom of the page.
By Judy.
Judy is there.
And Judy Barrett.
Judy, could you do that for us? Page 229 at the bottom. Might still be on mute.
Judy, you have to unmute.
Yes.
There you go.
Just me on.
Okay.
You are praised.
Yes.
Thank you. You are praised who rolls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that has turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks up upon the sea? You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll turn to page 232 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
And now,
How about you do Want me to be hot dog? What do you want? Okay.
page 234 for Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta
et
et
Adonai
Adonai
Elohecha
bechol
bechol levavcha
לבבך
ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשעריך ובקומך ושבתם ליהוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen.
Now let's see. Top of page 237. Lynn and Alan, would you be able to read that for us?
Was it just Alan?
Or is Alan just there? I don't see Lynn.
If people fall, can they not also rise? If they break away, can they not return? The stork in the sky knows when to migrate. The dove and the swallow know the season of return. What human instinct knows the time to turn back? What cue sparks the conscience of the soul? We pray to sense this day anew, attuned to the call of sacred living.
Thank you. Let's see, 239 at the bottom of the page. I don't know if Mort's able. Mort, are you able to unmute or are you on the phone? Sure.
Not sure either.
I'll give him a second. Mort, are you on mute?
Oh, he's having a problem.
All right, Mort, I'll move to Karen. Maybe Karen can do that for, you on? Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay, you're good.
Right? The eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else. May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them bear their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning forks. Let the nations not lift up sword against nation and learn war anymore. You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart. The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor? Asked God. We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing.
Thank you. And now we'll turn to Amika Mocha on page 240. Mika Mocha Ba'elim Adonai Mika Mocha Nedar B'Kodesh Nora Tehilot Oseh Theleh Shira Hadasha Shirahu Ge'ulim Leshinka Asafahayam Yachad Kulam Hodu Ve'im Lehu V'yameru Adonai Yimlo Le'olam Va'ed. Rock of Israel, rise in support of Israel and redeem Judah and Israel as you promised. Our Redeemer Adonai Sabaoth is your name. Blessed are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And now we'll turn to Tefillah on page 242, and then we'll do 244 to 248 on the even pages. Adonai Sifata Tifta Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Yimotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei V'Imarot Umevi Gulal Livnei B'neihem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Magin Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia Morid Atah Mechalchel Chaim B'Chesed Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim Zomet Noflim V'Rofei Holim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Bagilurot Umido Melach Melech Lemid Umekayeh Umatmia Yeshua V'nemar Atah L'Hayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Nekadesh Shemka Ba'olam Keshem Shematishim Ohoto B'Shmei Morom Kakatuv Yad Neviyecha V'Karav Ze'el Ze'el Ve'amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melo Kohoretz Kevodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Adir Shemcha B'chol Haaretz Baruch Kevod Adonai Minkomo Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu v'hu Yashmienu, Berachaman le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Yitzion, Ledor Vador. Hallelujah. Ledor Vador Nagid God Lecha, U'Netzach Nitzachim Kedushkat Natish, V'Shimcha Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamush Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
Now we'll turn to page 250 for Yismachu. Yismachu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. Aha, Mikadeshe, Mikadeshe Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yisba'u, V'yitzagu Tuvecha Shabbat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'hikdashto Shabbat, Kemdat Yamim, Oto Karata Shabbat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Onei Shabbat. Now we'll turn to the bottom of page 252. We didn't have Karen.
No.
Karen, could you read that for us?
Sure. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Thank you. Brian, we're going to turn to page 258. Brian and Karen, could you do that for us? At the bottom of the page?
We're not muted.
Grant peace, goodness, and blessing, grace, kindness, and mercy to us and all your people Israel. Bless us, your Creator, all of us together through your light of your presence. Truly, through the light of your presence, Adonai our God, you gave us a Torah of life, the love of kindness, justice, and blessing, mercy, life, and peace. May you see fit to bless your people Israel at all times and every hour with your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et Yamo Yisrael b'shalom.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to silent prayer on page 260, where you can add the prayers of your own heart, anyone that you may be praying for today. Oh, say shalom bimromav.
Uyase shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael. V'imru. V'imru amen. Yase shalom. Yase shalom. Shalom aleinu. Yakol Yisrael. Yase shalom. Yase shalom. Shalom aleinu, Yakol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, Yakol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, Yakol Yisrael. Don't do that. Since I'll talk about it.
Okay.
The Torah reading will begin on page 1373. This is actually a double portion this week, Nitzavim and Vayelech. The Deuteronomy was the beginning of the end of Torah. This is really just about the end of Torah. There are two more parshas after these, and that's it. And which is fortunate because Simchat Torah comes up shortly where we have to read the end and the beginning again. Works out wonderfully. Just a few words about what we're going to read today or what's in these chapters. Nitzavim, loosely translated, is we are all standing together. To me, you may want to change that a little bit, but that's the concept. Am I correct? Thank you. In this chapter, there is a final statement on Torah and Moses, but it goes on a little bit into the next chapter. But in this chapter also, just like every other chapter in Deuteronomy, Moses talks about blessings and curses. If you do the good things, you're blessed. If you do the bad things, you're in trouble. As you go into the next chapter, God even says, I know you guys are going to be bad. And believe me, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Also, in the second chapter that I just discussed, Moses announces to the Israelites, that he's now 120 years old. He can no longer lead and will not be able to lead them into the promised land because he's just too old and doesn't have the capability. And he then announces Joshua to the entire congregation as the new leader. In addition, which I found interesting, is that God tells Moses to bring Joshua to the tent of meeting. And for the first time, God actually speaks directly to Joshua because Moses is no longer really going to be the leader. All right, so Tamima, would you please grant us the Aliyah and read the blessings? Page 368.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hafrak Leolam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. It's page 1373 in the Chumash. You stand this day, all of you, before the eternal your God, you tribal heads, you elders, and you officials, all the men of Israel. You children, you women, even the stranger within your camp, from wood chopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant of the eternal your God, which the eternal your God is concluding with you this day, with its sanctions. In order to establish you this day as God's people, and in order to be your God, as promised you and as sworn to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before the eternal our God, and with those who are not with us here to this day. Now please turn to page 1376 and number 11. Surely, this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it. Tamima?
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, we love
It
your
sounds
Hebrew.
really nice to me.
Some of you, hopefully most of you, are familiar with what I just read. And you're going to hear it again, presumably, on Yom Kippur, because it is read every Yom Kippur. Actually, the Orthodox tend to read it a whole lot more than that. But this was the actual first time I stood before the congregation, and I had the honor to read this. And I didn't understand it because I didn't remember it. And as I read through it, as I was practicing reading it, I began to realize that this is really an incredibly central theme to Judaism. First of all, the title is Standing Together, because it's a plural. We're all standing. We are one, and we need to remain one. Then it says, which is really the important point, and it never mentions the word Torah or anything else. It calls it thing. But thing is this. It is Torah, and scholars argue whether they mean just Deuteronomy or whether it means the entire Torah. Unimportant. The fact is that unlike some religions in some places where the central themes are reserved for the priests, that's not true with us. In essence, we are all priests because we have the obligation to study this, and Moses and God did not keep this from us and make it difficult for us. As it says, it is not too baffling. And it is not far away. It's not in heaven. You don't need to go to God to read Torah. You just need to read it. And it must be read on a continual basis. And it's a living document. It is not something that was written
by Moses, and it says so, by the way, in the next Parsha, that Moses wrote it down and instructed that it be kept with the ark. That's why it's in arks today. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it is for us. It is not for the priests. It is not for the high religious people. It is ours to read and to review and to learn. And we learn every single time. I don't know how many times I've read now a number of these parshas, and every single time I find something new. So rather than go into, from my perspective, a specific point within the parsha, this is the point of Torah. Their laws are here. We talk about the laws, but the really important point is that it's really for all of us. Any comments? Karen, please.
Thank you, Bob. You gave me a whole new look at this particular section. It looks like I have penciled it, so I must have used it prior. But when I read it years ago, or even recently, the thing was to me was the instruction. And I love the idea that the thing is the whole book. And it's in our mouths and in our hearts. We feel it, we speak it, we share it, we stand together. You've just given me a whole new view of this parsha that we read every year. So I thank you.
Welcome. Tamima.
So I wanted to focus on the translation, not too baffling. That this instructions is not too baffling, and actually the word that is being used in Hebrew, niflet, it's beyond the translation of baffling. It is not a miracle. It is not. This should not be considered as something that is beyond miracle is marvel, wonder, like it is not something that you cannot do. You know, when you think of things that is a miracle, we as people would think, oh, that's for God to do, right? But this is real, and this is here, and it connects with what Karen just said. So just that very word, because baffling is confusing to me when I'm looking at English. So it's not about confusion, but it's about something that is very here and for us and accessible and doable.
Thank you. That helps. Much appreciated. I should be calling you every time I do this so you can translate. In the real words, I've had problems with the author of this particular text, the Chumash, because he tends to make his own words at various times.
So there are the how do you call it? The vowels. So there are some vowels that are being used in here that are unlike the vowels that you would use. They would use the vav instead of the yud and stuff like that. But it's still the way when you use the signs in the Hebrew, like the nikud under the letters, it actually sounds properly, but it's just with the wrong vowel for whatever reason.
Thank you.
And it could have been that whoever wrote the book just had the mark going down from the yud to the vav, and just it was left there because you don't fix the Torah, right? Whatever,
Right.
when it was there, it was there. But regardless, the nikud is actually tells us how to read the words.
Thank you. Jerry?
The term living document or living thing, it means more to me when I think of the fact that obviously we as Reformed Jews interpret things, if that's the correct word, differently than the Orthodox or the ultra Orthodox. I'm sure, way back when there was no idea that this would even happen. So the idea that it's a living document extends to, there are so many interpretations of how we look at it and how we receive it and how we live it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, for example, there's a Talmud, and then there's the whole Midrash, because it changes all the time. People have different interpretations and they argue about an interpretation, and they're still arguing about those interpretations. Yeah, the Torah is actually very short, and it doesn't give you a lot of interpretation. So there are ways that you have to look at it. If you look at our Constitution, it's the same kind of thing. There are many interpretations of what certain sections in the Constitution are, because it was written in such a abbreviated fashion, if you will. So this I see in the same way, that this takes a lot of thought and what it means, but it's the point that it's here and not out there, is that your interpretation is as correct as Rabbi Akiva's, for example. Excuse me. Tamima?
Okay, I have two more points to make.
Please.
This is really interesting because now I read it without the nikud. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. This is intentional, actually, because if you read it without the nikud, in Hebrew you have the female male.
Right.
So when they're talking about this instruction or the Torah or the mitzvah, whatever is this thing, they're now reading it both ways. They're reading it as a reference to it as this is in the female or in the male form. It's he and who. He, asher. So that is very intentional that it was written this way. But that's about Hebrew. But I did have another point to the beginning of the chapter when you were reading the very, very last sentence. They're actually referring to the chain of the Jewish people when they're talking about the people that are not here with us today. They're also nitzavim. They're also standing are here with us today. And this talks about Jewish continuity, and it's very, very strong. The covenant is a covenant of Jewish continuity, and it's specifically referred to those who are not here today. Very strong point.
Thank you. And I left that out. I really appreciate you pointing that out, because that is incredibly important, which really in essence says that we are not standing there when this was done, but we are standing with them.
So Brian
And Judy first.
Yeah. Oh, she's on mute. Brian, we do see you. We'll get you next.
Those who have already come and are not here, and those who will come in the future. And I see a lot of handing the baton over to the next generation today, even. And you look at politics, you look at the temple itself. We are handing over a lot to the next generation. I see it even in my own families and friends of ours and people we know.
Exactly. We all reach a certain age and realize it is time to pass it on.
Yes.
Thank you, Judy. Brian?
Yeah, whenever I hear this, the first thing that comes to my mind is that it's written in a time when the people are largely illiterate. So, this is for you, this is your responsibility to do, but you can't refer back to it just at a random time, because realistically, who can afford a book? And even if you can, you can't read it. And so even with that obstacle, the responsibility is still there. That doesn't excuse you from it. And you know, there are so many different responsibilities that, you know, people have in life, that there are obstacles for, that are surmountable. But because there is an obstacle there in whatever fashion, it's just, oh, there's an obstacle, we're done. I don't have to do this because of X, Y, or Z. When, you know, maybe you can go around something. That was the first thing. The second thing I thought of, and this just popped into my head, was there's no like proxy provision here. You know, like a famous example, you know, like during the Civil War, you know, you would be drafted or you would give us $300, and it's the same thing. There's no difference. It's not like, okay, but if you give us a couple hundred shekels, then you don't have to do this. That's not happening. This is for you to do, period. And I find it very interesting that that's all there, you know, there's no alternative.
Very good point. Thank you very much. Sharon.
I like that last part that Karen pointed out too. The thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to observe it. I think there's I don't know what to call it, an undercurrent here and in Judaism, and I think that's part of what really attracted me to it, of a belief that we are essentially good. We know how to be good. It's in our heart. We just have to avoid being tempted by this, you know, I think of false gods as the false gods of complacency, money, the other things that tempt us in our lives to make us less than the good, holy people that we could be. But coming from a religion that was very different, where all have sinned, to a religion where it's there, it's in you, just work at it, keep it at, you know, get it out there. I don't know, I like that.
That's beautiful, thank you. Anyone else? No, it's not. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much.
So now we'll turn to page 371 from Misha Barak. And Brian, I guess if you can unmute everyone, because we're a pretty small group, very intimate group. So if there's a name of someone that you're praying for and like to add them to our prayer of healing today, please state their name.
Casey Lambs and Diane Brenner.
Okay. Donna Kircher.
Shirley Salkin.
Cindy Cohen.
Hello, Eyal Perach. Oded Abel.
Phyllis Green.
Shirley Salkin, Irving Stone.
Jeff Cohen. Harry Freund.
And Quentin Payne. Okay. Yishabehera Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Yishabehera Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And now we'll turn to page 586 through 588 for Alinu. So please rise.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol lateku la yotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo hosamanu kamishpachot hadama shelo sam helkenu kahem vego horalenu kekol hamona banachnu korim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Where are we gonna go? It's up to you.
All right, we'll go.
Okay.
We'll go. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nehemor l'chaya Adonai, l'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Now we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish.
And this week, the observances: Gussie Blacker, David Goldstein, Harry Finkelstein, Corinne Eigen, Martha Nemerov, Esther Prager, Rebecca Similocci, Millie Rosenberg, Diana Needle, Israel Gendel, Maddie Berkowitz, Robert Foreman, Brian Goldberg, Ruth Corcus, Stuart Harris, Deborah Pfeffel, Ira Shear, Stephen Risson, Sarah Rosen, Melvin Schwartz, Alec Cargman. Is there anyone else who has Yortzeit, Shlusim, Shiva? Nope.
Okay, and we'll say we'll start prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon u'yamechon, u'v'chayi l'kol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yisba'ar v'yisramam v'yisnaseh. V'yishaleh v'yishalal shemei l'kudusha b'rechu. Le'elam min kol birkata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damiram b'yama v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osa shalom b'mamav. U'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. All right, so now we'll turn to closing song.
Before we do, just for all others, Shlichot starts at 7:30 tonight. The link is on trt.org at the top of the home page.
And also, if you haven't signed up for High Holy Days, there'll be a dedicated link given to you. That's also on this week. It's in This Week in TRT and also on the homepage. So please don't forget.
Yeah, if you don't sign up, you don't get the link.
Okay. Our closing song is.
And if you don't mind, just one more reminder: tomorrow morning we'll be there to give out prayer books for the high holidays.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
And Tuesday also from 5 to 6?
Yes. Okay. In the middle of page 648, we're going to sing Shir Hadash. Shir Adonai Kol HaOretz. Shiru Adonai Shir Hadash.
Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Hadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Hadash. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you all for joining us today. And thank you for lending your voices, even though I can't hear all of them. I know they're there because I see the mouths moving.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Bob and Susan.
You're welcome.
Beautiful
Shabbat shalom,
service,
everybody.
wonderful Devar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see everyone.
Good job,
Night.
as always.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Brian.
Karen and I have
Something to share.
Yes.
Brian, go ahead.
Yes. We are pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
Congratulations.
Mazel tov.
Baby too.
We're
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel Tov.
we're due in February.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wonderful.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Oh, Karen, you look well.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
How do you
How do
feel?
you feel?
Feeling okay. I mean, mostly hungry right now, but
How lucky.
Enjoy.
That's good.
I wish you my pregnancy and my delivery. They were both great.
Oh.
Lullaby.
Afterwards, it's up to you.
Mazel
Thank you for sharing
Wonderful.
that with us.
Yeah,
It's great. It's great.
Good to have good news.
Great.
it is. It's
Great to hear
There's some good news.
Yes.
Here
For
is.
2020.
Right.
Bob, I love the way you present the pashas to us. I do have one request. I'm obviously using a different Tanakh than you are. And if you could just say like Deuteronomy 25, or it would, whatever it is, that would be helpful to me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Bob, I've been frantically looking because I know it's at the bottom. What is the quote? Something about Torah, now go out and learn.
Oh, that's the Hillel.
Right.
Standing on one foot.
Yeah.
That is, do not do
As I
to
do.
others what is hateful to you. All the rest is commentary.
Commentary. All the rest is commentary.
Exactly.
By many.
I wanted to share something that Judy referred to, and it's interesting because I'm going back to the Torah. It's so interesting how I was thinking to the generations before us, and Judy was thinking about the generation ahead of us. And I just received a picture that I want to share with all of you from our Tot Shabbat. Is that okay?
Sure.
Please.
That I just received it from Jen, and this is earlier this morning when they were in Tot Shabbat.
So happy.
So just when
Fabulous.
I just thought that this is so fabulous that I wanted everybody to enjoy it, because when I saw the picture I was like so
That's what it's
happy.
about.
That's
Oh, that's
beautiful.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It reminded me of last year at service when we were in the high school, that there were a few kids, I think it might have been Dan Schleifstein's son, and whenever Mark Wilner went to blow shofar, he was doing it on his little plastic one, just like that. He was joyful about doing it.
Yes.
There's another quote on page 241. I love reading in our Mishkan Tefillah the footnotes.
Yes.
It's not enough to be concerned for the life to come. Our immediate concern must be with justice and compassion in life here and now, with human dignity, welfare, and security. So it is the life before that we bring with us as we stand, the life after that we are standing for to bring with us, and what we do right now. We're all connected. It's all connected.
It is.
As it says on our Ark, Lador Vador.
Vador, Vador. Thank you, Nina. Put it on there.
That's right.
Oh. So everybody's got to get out and enjoy the day. Mother Nature, like I said, flip this fall outside all of a
It
sudden.
is. It's beautiful.
Walked out this morning.
Mums last week, so we know it's a sure sign of fall.
It's nice and cool. It was in the 60s when we walked this morning.
Oh.
So go out and enjoy.
Yeah, have a great Shabbat day.
Yeah,
Thank
enjoy
you
your
to
bike ride.
everyone.
Thank you.
What?
Tonight.
Bye-bye. We'll see everyone tonight.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
See
you to
tonight.
everyone.
Hello.
Goodbye.
7:30.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Oh,
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
tonight
shalom.
is there, another Zoom for this, and is it different than what we use for Shabbat?
What, the Slichot?
Oh, it'll say Slichot.
Yeah, at the top of the webpage, it's a different Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tamima.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, we did too.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, Tamima.